I think I didn't hear that. There's not that many people. There you go. Okay. First poem I have is a portrait of Patroclus, and I'll just read it. The shadow cast from a single lantern is not biblical, though it is indistinguishable in proportion. He is a symphony exploding slowly at first, in shifts and silently. A meticulous petaled crescendo brimming with vibration. His breath, a plie stolen from the blackness of Caravaggio. A Merlot-lipped recitation of Cavafy under black lace. The black of scriptures that bleed when you touch them. Shadow black as the naked silhouette of an observer on his neck. His eyes glister gold as river light, an expression old as the earliest forms of wonderment. A pleasury, a seance, gossamer white flame licked and split up the center. His vanillin abounds. A furrow roiling beneath the morning psalm of Achilles' horses. On his brow, a covenant with any creator willing to listen. And this poem is very different than that one. It's titled, You Up? In the jet pitch of night I refuse sleep and its lulling touch. Were that devilry to swallow me whole, I'd grip it by the throat from the inside. Each finger an arachnid of bent cigarettes tearing through flesh to get to a place where I might gather the means and materials to march across another. Oh, baby, not tonight. I don't wanna fuss and fight. I just wanna make it right. But I'm a fool. I march towards the dawn, letting loose bits of light so I can retrace my steps and recollect them. Inside of myself, for you. My neck and lips tender, thick with shine, a twitch, a flicker, a blink like nebulae imploring, give me all your love and don't stop. My love's waiting and when you reach the top. All night long spreading gold black through purpled smoke, and I'll admit to being much less than what's advertised with my filthy hands and red face. But you only call me when you're lonely and need someone. Not me. One, and I'm begging you not to have me make you a human again. When we're so close to the shit-a-da-da-da-da-do, shit-a-da-da-da-da-do. And all you want to do is get lit up and raised to the dirt. Have no fear, I don't practice what I preach. I always have a fistful of stones and a pretty glass house. Inside is a love seat swayed as starlight, upholstered moonful as licorice, black wet with nighttime talk like spit in the movies. But better than that, I got a big mouth and an urge to back it up. So come into my bedroom, honey. What I got is made to spend money. And I need it while I'm young and neon enough for you to see me underappreciated. And you love it. You always do. Until I get all liberal arts on you and ask one too many questions. The original last line was until I get all Sarah Lawrence on you. But my editor was like, okay, come on, girl. That was the one concession. No, it wasn't. This one is titled You Therefore, and it's after a poem by Reginald Shepard, who's a very important writer to me and person. So if you don't know Reginald Shepard, let's talk about it after, or, Google it. That works too. So this is after a poem of the same title, You Therefore. When I try to remember myself before there was you, I stand between orbits of memory too distant to reach. And in the time it took to surrender, I have never been more free. It is in the seconds that burn away, raising me up just enough to pull you down onto and into my loss of breath. I belong wherever you are, and hope, and dream. I give you shelter within my trappings of skin and synapse, all the while proclaiming you to be the sole heir to my oscillating limbs. Each of your words still to the rise and fall of my chest when you finally see me seeing you. from the distance of arms. May our story catch fire amongst limb and freckle and hair and bone, burn ember and rive into whatever water whispers wet to quiet whim and will in favor of wanton want in every sense. We acquiesce and evanesce the evidence ever since the very first days we ever spent together night forevermore. That's for Reginald. So I have two more, and this is for my best friend who passed away right before I started my MFA program. I probably shouldn't have said that because now I'm gonna read it with all that in my mind. Damn it! And it's titled Saudade. I'm really obsessed with the type of word, or saudade, words that can't be translated easily into English, which makes me a poet. Wow, basic. But this is what I did with that word. Me trying to define it. Define it. Means missing as much as absent means broken off at the hilt or unable to forge a sickle to protect yourself from the sharpness of yearning. Means missing as much as how did you get here? Nobody's supposed to be here. Means there's a stranger in my house. Means set me free, why don't you, babe? Means I can't. Means I won't. Means another sorry without I am. Means missing as much as unrequited. Means a pleasure you suffer or illness you enjoy. Means your prayers cannot calm nor can they destroy. Means missing as much as tears can mean joy or pain, or I'm still not okay means I wish I never met you, or empty means full as much as wanting means I hate not having. Means tracing a land's borders where time can only be measured in the distance from one's homeland, or the margins, or the dearly departed. Means missing as much as you playing the victim means winning an argument I didn't know we were even having. Means fuck you for leaving, but fuck you more for coming back. This this poem is titled Self-Portrait as a Boy in Nail Polish, and it comes from when I was a elementary school social worker. A little first grader basically bullied me and told me the boys weren't supposed to wear nail polish, so that was really sweet. Uh, the inner first grader in me pushed her down, but the grown up of however many years didn't do that. Wrote a poem, so we're gonna go with that as the adult decision. Self-portrait as a boy in nail polish. That boy sweet, sweet like sugar should be. Like mango gets sweet, so sweet it gets caught between your teeth. She got in my head, that's what it was. Orange honey blossom, syrupy as agave is sweet, sweet enough to sugar the red out of some Kool-Aid. That boy got more than a little sugar in his tank. Sweet as flowers bloom in morning dew, and the beauty seems to say, it's a pleasure when you treasure all that's new and true. And that boy caña stabbed through a mojito, begging to lay in teeth. That boy folded hands and crossed legs, don't start none, won't be none. Sugar pie, honey bunch. Sweeter than rainbow sprinkled buttercream, sweeter than water ice or piraguas in July. That boy's sweeter than a mug of hot cocoa and cinnamon, of marshmallow fluff horchata, of matcha sweet tea on ice, of red velvet amaretto gelato, sweet as lavender caramel madeleines. That boy Nutella whispered on a street corner in gay Paris. Maraschino sherries soaked in Pepsi and candied raspberries after hotboxing up the coast. Burn your throat, he's so sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm wearing flats today. I usually wear heels, but I injured my toe. So, thank you so much, Roberto. That was so great. Roberto and I actually know each other from Sarah Lawrence. So this is a really happy reunion. It's very sweet. And I'm so happy to be celebrating Shelley today. Congratulations. Shelley and I met years ago at a Lambda Literary event in Los Angeles. And you're such a bright, shining presence in the Bay Area literary scene. So it's really wonderful to celebrate her today. If you haven't gotten a copy of As She Appears, please do. I'm going to be reading from Imagine Us the Swarm today. I'm going to read a couple of poems. This one is very apt for what I feel most of the time, which is called A Careful List of All My Failures. Every year, the same ritual of having myself before each benevolent ghost. Gold-flecked paper lit until its inevitable blossoming. Moth, angel, ash bead. I am reminded sometimes the floundering can be gentle while also singed. Here, my body tilts forward in an eternal rocking. There, I carried incense too far to the south of me. The wind blew me out. With such mournfulness, I was talking. I sang it deep into my bones, and clumsily the talking became a fugue, cowed for you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. And I was tall as a carousel bush, wanting always to please. But my badness seeks unfilial pleasure, discovered too early how to sift through my own self-loathing. But my body did not bow, it bent. My mother calls it a bettering, as in, do you think you're better than me? Because being bad has a texture like the rubbing together of two unlike stones. Its spark means plenitude. It has no exact translation. That I swallowed my words for 6 years until they were as rotten as me. So she planted a sword in herself, and I took the sword and sunk it down my grotto. In such variable tricks, we survived for years. My bad made of dirt, glitter, and so much bloat. How American this language of ascension, that I could spit back I did not ask to be born and mean it. Claire Jean Kim calls it the field of racial positions, the arrangement of different bodies along a dying field, vying for the one blade of fresh cut grass, as if none of us are fit for water. What the theory of racial triangulation tells us is the distribution of inequities rooted in white dominance. That I could look to you and feel that I'm at least but once lesser and perhaps fortuitous for having earned that small morsel of God. To bend so far back, my spine becomes another flag of assimilable colors, and I am not even legible to myself, cannot even English my way out. At my eradication, my first love wrote me a poem about my body, telling me what my body was when knuckle creased. How I knew it was a trap, but could not gather my flesh fast enough. Those were the heaviest days when I was filled with so much rain and did not know what he meant when he said, "You are the prettiest, pretty, my pretty. Can you speak Japanese to me? Can you, my pretty, please?" And I was so grateful to be even considered while dissolving beneath him that I shuddered away the alarm and said, "That is not me," but also, okay. Some days it is so quiet it feels like begging. One day smaller than a fingernail, another day the colossal fury of a rising tide. In a nation of proximity and degree, what is my likeness to a thumb? The brutal texture of my race beside another. The history of my particulars, only a fraction of a tower. How luminous my non-speech, how my ghost becomes a hiss. The resistance lives in me, I know, though how? A history racing against itself knows only meaning through monuments, the isolation of grief in a great alone. The way my therapist traced it, The trauma wheel in perpetuity moves and comes upon a wall, smacking against its bright white surface, often on an unsuspecting day in succession, until it begins to feel like a drowning. On paper, the steely faces of my ancestors bear the mark of trying, as in the act of striving would do the body good. The bones buck up, refuse to lose. The white woman who said, "I'm jealous of your culture. You'll never run out of things to write about." The poorest matter of one's racial suffering. Such myths we prepare for ourselves. In a singular language, a cleansing, that absence can feel like relief. Still, to my mother, I described how I wanted to live a good life of many candied gratitudes. I wanted to be bigger than a bruise. So much noise I patterned my breaking, but my queer self buckling against the frame is something other. When R folded the sheet over me, the city was quiet and borderless. I dreamed. Even locked within the room, I poured out of it. Leah Lakshmi Piepsna Samar Sinha asks, "Where is this place our baby bodies sprinted towards, even when we were holding still for as long as possible? In other words, what does it mean to be free? The sky of my love is full of tumult. That I know." In the dying field, pointing to my own body, I saw that it was mine, was always there, and it spoke, when I spoke, a language of two hardened places, and there I lived, despite it all. I'll read one last poem. This one is because we were talking about, should Shelley read poems about her exes today and how many? So you can all decide that for her. But this is a poem about exes. It's probably like one. No, I have like three. Exactly three. But this is one where all of them appear. Suppose everybody I ever loved made up a tiny universe in which each one thrived in their own planetary hues. I mistook each one for the central star, common mistake. And still, I draped each of them in a garment of changing seasons. "How many moons?" I asked. They answered, and I supplied. The universe moved in strident form, each planet missing the other in orbit. I did not intend to collapse the blue planet, still unfurling in its newness, but the layers of its life saw no future for water. I abandoned a dry well. I floundered. Years ago, the universe held a pale sun. It struck a match through every star-kissed body, and in its stillness was painful as glass. I thought falling in love meant white hot, but that was only a fraction of the universe, of time. I felt the shadow first when I pleaded, "Eclipse me." It was a chaos of spurs, and it burned. It came and went, and in returning begged the spun miracle of rings. There would be no end to this carrying. For them, I knew I would always wait. Turning my body over, I saw the universe was halved, its noisy assemblage sliding towards collision. I held the planets close. I pressed their gaseous swarms to ruckus mass. I did this so they would believe me. Having endured the labor of the current, the universe was fast expanding. It needed to fold. Even I could not bear it. I surrendered, and I loved them all. Thank you so much. Please welcome Shelley.
Cool. Thank you so much, Muriel and Roberto. And thank you all for being here for Pride Month. This is very special. Thank you to Evan and the Booksmith crew for having us. I was sharing that the first place I ever lived in San Francisco was on Ashbury at Haight in a pink Victorian with a marijuana baker named Destiny, who said that it was Janis Joplin's apartment. Maybe? I was like, oh, this is very San Francisco experience. And so I just have a lot of memories of being on Haight Street, and some of it is the same. Like Pork Store Cafe is still there, but I remember walking to like a video store. I wore this shirt because I bought it at the Wasteland like 20 years ago, so it's a little snug. But yeah, I have a long history of the Haight, so I thought it was very special and surreal. I just want to like talk to 21-year-old Shelley and say, just wait, the book will come. And now it is here. I'm going to read the first poem from the book, For the Living in the New World. There are so many ways to explore a forest, over clover clusters, past skunk cabbages, to a field where we listen for a ghost of song. The hypergreen periphery is the opposite of Los Angeles on fire. Any tree can become a ladder. These trees have too many branches, but it is not my place to revise them. I may be happiest improvising the language a body can make on a dance floor. We are just learning how female birds sing in the tropics. Spring insists we can build the world around us again. How has love brought you here? My head is heavy from the crown. So these poems came together in the aftermath of a relationship with a partner who I had. We were together in that apartment. And so this book is it was written in the aftermath, but there are some poems that speak to the relationship. And an important one is called Pride Month. So from the Haight Street apartment or Ashbury Street apartment, we moved to New York, where we lived for 8 years. Basically, I turned 30 and we moved back because it was like, okay, we're Californians. This is getting tiring to carry laundry down many flights of stairs in the snow. And also I was applying to graduate school for creative writing. But while we lived there, my partner at the time worked for Heritage of Pride, which is the official pride organization of New York, descended from the original Christopher Street group. So it was pretty powerful to be part of that community. And my ex was sort of the number two and ran the events backstage. So I always got like VIP seating, which was nice, and like the sea of humanity. So this is about that time. This is Pride Month, and the epigraph is from Anne Sexton. It is June. I'm tired of being brave. It is June, and I read about having grace to forgive those who would condemn us. It is June, and a man reads a poem where the father becomes a dying stag, and the son says, "There is something I need to tell you." It was June when I was awake past midnight, gathering news about the Pulse nightclub shooting. I fell asleep knowing I would wake to walk against grief in waves. It is June, and I'm happy that Tegan and Sarah will appear in San Francisco or Oakland. It is June, and I have never prayed to any god. It was New York in the 2000s when my ex ran the chaos backstage at the Pride Pier Dance. In strobing summer heat, we slid through a sea of men with shaved chests. The songs hardly had words, and the bass shuddered into our bodies. Fireworks climaxed over the Hudson, and the crowd rocked and roared back. I stood in a tropical sundress in the VIP section, surrounded by so many barely dressed people, double kissing my face, saying, "Happy Pride, and where is your wife?" Refrain. Farewell, romantic sacrifice. I choose myself. Some can only love once. How true will it be? I love sequins, but get the sequence confused. At our end, I broke from her, and every face grew stranger. Stranger, speak to me like light through a veil. Like a spent match, the darlings turn to find me, and I fade into the glitter. A sequoia has every vow like a closed hand. When I've worn my body down from dancing, I still point to the sky. I will honor my body, my only body, its honor, my will. This one's called My Therapist Asks If I Would Be Happier If I Were Straight. I have trees in my mind and rivers too. Drown the world that gives us two X's for our eyes. With the right song, I'll dance down my bones. I use a trapdoor when I erase my feeling. When I take cover, I forgive myself. These days, I'm busy stitching my breath. Desire becomes a distant edge. As a girl, I never saw a woman who looked like me. I had to invent her. I'm inventing her. Let's see. Then I'll read two more. This one's about being on Fire Island. I thought it's funny how that film just came out with the Asian gays on Fire Island. So this is like my perspective as a Asian queer woman on Fire Island and feeling like it was a space both for and not for me. I did visit there a few times with my ex and then was there as an artist in residence in the National Parks program, but that program is in the Strait area, which is called Watch Hill, which is very different. So I was always trying to get to the Pines and Cherry Grove, and it was like, I want to say it was like 2 miles in the sand, and one time I tried it, and it was like, oh, never again. So this is me trying to find a ferry. This is called Weather Advisory. It is foggy and the ferry will not travel east. The captain lost without his radar, sonar. Excuse me, sirs, this is a gay dancing emergency. Is heterosexuality the fog? I am slow with too much time, dressed in 4 shades of gray and a streak of pink. Oh, it's an older crowd. Oh, that's me. We all had the same Madonna Whitney childhood, set to synthesizer beats. Today, I tried to pluck a pine cone, but the stem said no. I'm sorry, tree. I meant to ask consent. Between the pines and Cherry Grove, there's one path for tourists, another for cruising. Among the rangers, I feel famous. Are you the writer? Hello, bird. I have no sweetness to offer the bees. Where did Frank O'Hara wander and fall asleep on the beach? The first inhabitant of Fire Island was a shipwrecker. He lured ships to shore and killed the crews. It is not certain whether the island is named for these warning flames or its sunsets. I am a fire sign. Who should I touch with this burning? I loop along the bay, the marina, the beach, emptied of families. In the straight neighborhood, I watch men on break pause one by one to take in my neon floral shorts. They reveal my kiss of a birthmark, the walk of a messy-haired woman, some faraway flower. Let's see. Then I'll close. So I'll close with my Asian-tastic poem. So go out on a high note. Okay. This is called All Beyonces and Lucy Liu's, which makes me feel a little old because it's like, oh, like that was like 20 years ago. Wow. Okay. All Beyonces and Lucy Liu's, which is from the Outkast song Hey Ya. Where are you from? The LBC. Can you speak? Hakao Sumai. I am 4 generations deep in America. Dial up the boba to 75% sweetness, 50% ice. What do your people call juk? Chinese people skip the 4th floor. Don't trust a pho place without a number in its name. Enter June, Lena, Rose, and Waverly. Enter Lucy Liu and my girl Drew. Lucky white ceramic cats collect what's owed. Hello Kitty, little twin stars, my melody. Did you know Keanu Reeves is part Chinese? His Hawaiian name means cool breeze over the mountains. The most exquisite loneliness is Maggie Chung gliding in a cheongsam as she ascends a staircase. In my domestic dress, I calculate my proportions with finesse, like a G6. Tell me the best midnight restaurant in Chinatown. We run with the yellow Power Ranger, eat turkey juk after Thanksgiving. Enter Claudia Kishi licking salt off her fingers. Did you watch Keanu and River Phoenix in my own private Idaho? Is my eyeliner even? I can't tell Mandarin from Cantonese. Drink hot water to flush the fat. How did Michelle Kwan change you? Fields of gold forever, Mulan against the world. Are you wearing blacks tonight? Chiva Mato is playing at the Bronze. Chinese love cash. Little girls dressed in pink and red. Thank you. Hi. Are we all on camera? Or do we need to huddle? Okay, we're good. Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you all for being here. This is really special. So I met Roberto at Community of Writers. I'm not sure if what moment it was, but we didn't drive there together, but we drove back together, right? I think so. And then we all had like the same adolescent 90s Maya.
Oh God, yes.
Yes. And then you told me about that amazing like Mariah, like she really loves adverbs.
Mariah's 10-cent words that she just loves such elevated diction.
Yeah.
Indefinitely.
Yeah.
Breathlessly fervent amid the dandelions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mariah. Yes. And then I remember we had a conversation for Nomadic Press.
Oh yeah, we did do that.
Yeah, I remember you played the Maya then. I was like, oh yeah, Maya.
Okay, so the X is
So
always
warm up
good.
music, yeah. And then Muriel and I met at Lambda for your first book. And then, yeah, that was an amazing reading.
Was it during Pride? It wasn't during Pride Month. It was during the festival, which is in fall, right?
I'm not sure. It might have been like April.
Oh, okay.
I think it was like early in my tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was really special.
California, the Bay Area, LA circuit.
Yeah. And then I didn't know that you two knew each other at Sarah Lawrence.
Yeah.
When you were both undergrad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's been a long time.
And you were both in Kathy Park Hong's workshop.
That's right.
Do you have like a Kathy Park Hong like hot tip for like workshop? You can like share the knowledge that like has stayed with you?
Do you?
I'm trying to remember. Well, Kathy wrote in my evaluation. She was mad that I didn't. She was like, "You always look so pissed in class when anytime white students would talk," and she was like, "I was like, wait for you to say something, and you never do." So in my evaluation, she was like, "Muriel needs to speak up more because she's got a lot to say," and I was like. I confronted her about it years later. And I was just like, what's that about? And she was just like, I don't know. I just feel like Asian women to Asian women, you should, step it up. And I think like now that she's like, her career has really blossomed. And I think that she's finding her voice too. So it's kind of nice to know, like we met her sort of at the early stages of her career. And she has a lot of wisdom to dole out, I think. Have you met Kathy before?
Yeah, at Community of Writers, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that summer workshop, you only work with, there's like 6 faculty, so you only work with them for 1 day. I'm trying to remember I think I did like this rainbow poem for her workshop, but then I remember it was like the last night where we have the dinner, and she kind of like followed me a little bit, so we sat down next to her, but then like a white woman sat on the other side and kept like talking to her. And so I texted my friend, I was like, take my picture with Kathy. So I have this picture on Instagram where she's like talking to the white woman. I'm like, but I was too shy. Yeah, I was too shy to talk to Kathy. But then I found out we were both Leos. I'm like, oh, I should have like, I don't know, overcome Leo connection. But yeah, I wish I had talked to her. But she did accept that first poem in the book. She accepted for the New Republic, so that meant a lot. Yeah, are you in touch with Kathy? Oh, she blurbed your book, right? Yeah, she blurbed your first
But I do want to add to what you said. Similarly, I had a very interesting relationship with her. I think she gave me the type of tough love that I was not ready for.
Whoa.
And years later, I talked to her. I want to say I confronted her, but I just came up to her and like, yeah. She was just so nice and told me like, oh no, I really believed in you. That's why I was pushing you. I was like, oh, that's why I felt the way I did. And that was really nice to have that moment, because without that, I would have still been thinking about my evaluation as well.
No.
But that wasn't the question.
Yeah. I was gonna say, that's so amazing. Like, that's part of what I feel like I've been lacking. Like, I did go to Kunimon, which is like a beautiful experience, but I never had that woman of color, like semester long or quarter long workshop experience. Like, all of my faculty were white, both undergrad and grad. So yeah, I wish I could have gotten like gone to Rutgers or ASU now. It's just like, it did get better. I was on the cusp. I was like, oh, I missed it, but that's so precious and amazing. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I'm thinking about your book, and as you were reading, I was just like, wow, like Shelley is so grown and so wise. And I'm just like, you're here talking about mentors, and I feel like there's something about your book that serves as kind of, it feels like a very mentorly oriented book. I feel like you're doling out wisdom that like young queer Asian women would really gain a lot from. So maybe the question for you is like, who are your mentors and who like informed the writing of your book?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Muriel. That's so sweet of you. I also want to add that Muriel is now a doctor. She's transitioned.
No. I was like, wait, not the helpful kind of doctor.
No, yeah.
I can't
so you're
like,
going to
diagnose
be
anything.
a mentor to so many. But thank you. That means a lot, because I do feel like I did struggle to find mentorship, and so a lot of it was in the literature. Like, I remember in undergrad, I don't know how I found her book, but Suji Kwok Kim's book, Notes from the Divided Country, I think it came out in 2003, and it won the Walt Whitman Prize. It was selected by Yusuf Komanyaka, and I remember being really amazed because there weren't many young emerging Asian American writers. Like, I'd known about Kathy Song and Leung Lee, but she seemed pretty young. And then I was just amazed because her her bio was just like packed with like Yale, Iowa Writers Workshop, Stegner, Fulbright. And I was like, oh my God, this is like what it takes to become a published writer. But that book is incredible. And I know it's influenced Eduardo C. Corral and Ocean Vuong and also influenced me. And she hasn't written anything since, maybe because she was so accomplished. She like needed to take a break. But yeah, that was an important book for me. And Kathy Song and Leung Lee. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Brenda Shaughnessy, who I think you worked Rutgers, right? It's all Rutgers. Yeah, Rutgers. Brenda Shaughnessy. And Eduardo C. Corral. And also like so many millennials, like you and so many Kuniman folks and Roberto and so many people that I've crossed paths with, because I'm like on the cusp. I'm an exennial. But I'm like, oh, millennials, like, wow, like growing up with the internet, their like brains are like 2.0 and they're like so good at like photography, like self-photography. Yeah. But no, it's true. Just like I was really intimidated and astonished by the millennials in my MFA program. Like, oh my gosh, they're so well read and articulate and talented. So yeah, it's just been like, it's humbling too as like an older person to be, you know, so inspired and feel like the younger people are also teaching me so much. So yeah, it goes both ways, like across the generations. Yeah, yeah. Abundance.
Love that.
Yeah, yeah. So both of you came out with your second books, and so I'm curious of like versus your first book journey, like how's that been? And it seems like it was pretty quick for the first to the second, maybe.
I don't know.
A little
What do you
bit.
think?
Yeah.
I think what was very different about the second book is I just felt more assured of what I needed to say versus what I thought I had to say for other people. First book had all like the grandma poems, all of that thesis stuff. Got that out of the way. I mean, it felt very urgent at the time, but now it feels more like a mixtape as opposed to an album. Whereas the second book, I'll probably say the same thing for the third and fourth and keep pushing it back. But I think a lot of the MFA workshop stays in your mind when you come out of the MFA, which is great. But I think I started to listen to the voices that made the most sense to me versus for that format. And sometimes writing against some of those voices was helpful, you know? Fuck them. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't have a book coming out. But some of them do, so that's fine. So I think maybe being more confident in that this is what I want to do to make sure that a young person with like a last name like mine has another person on the shelf, because I didn't really have that many. So I really understand that figuring out if there's something that you need and isn't there, you have to create it. That's a hard lesson, but it's a good lesson to have, and I think that's what I tried to bring with me to book 2.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when you first, I don't know, like I think when you first write a book, and maybe like you can, this is your debut, but I feel like you like put out so many wonderful poems out in the world in the chapbook. There's this feeling of like, oh, like you've been working so long to put together this thing that felt impossible for so long. And then when it's out, it's like, oh, like I can do this again. Like it's because you've done it before. And there's something that's really exciting about that, because I think you free yourself from the kind of barriers that brought you to the writing of the first book. And then the second one is just like, okay, now that I've done this really big thing, like I can actually pursue something different. And so there's something that's very liberating about it. And there's also a lot of fear. Janice Sapigao calls it like the first book blues. where she's like, okay, you did this huge thing, and now it's like, okay, and then now it's done. What's next? And then I think the answer is like, actually, everything is possible after this. And there's something that's really beautiful about that. And I hope that that's something you can look forward to too. I know everyone will always ask you like, so what's next, Shelley? And you're like, I just put this out. Are there things percolating for you? Like, what are you thinking about now that you finished your first book?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the book was accepted in 2019, so I was starting some new work at the Headlands that was site specific and thinking about the local Bay Area as an environment, as a place, and also intersecting that with my family history and being fourth generation Chinese American. And so I actually, well, I haven't done a lot of work myself. I've been relying on two aunts, one on each side of my family, who did a lot of oral histories with our relatives and came up with kind of a very nice PowerPoint with some primary documents related to a couple of my great grandparents. But with the names, I was able to go to the National Archives and like find the files on one set of great grandparents who went through Angel Island, and I could like hold like their interrogation interviews, which was pretty wild. But yeah, it's definitely a new challenge because coming to research, coming to family stories, and like what to do with that as a poet. I'm not sure, like, is it hybrid? Is it its own thing? Is it erasure? I'm not sure, like, yeah, where to go. And then with the pandemic and all these, you know, sort of the legacy of like Asian immigration into America, it became like very timely and just took on a whole another layer, which I think became even more daunting to kind of approach as a subject, or for me in this time. So yeah, I was thinking of going more towards, yeah, like queer joy, which is another topic which I wanted to talk about, especially it being Pride Month. Yeah, and what that looks like. I'm really inspired by your book, Muriel, and how the end section moves into imagining these collective radical futures. And I think it's interesting how both of your works and poems that you read kind of bring in other many different layers, like your beautiful singing, like how music enters your work, and then for you, like how theory and history and the lyric essay and the footnotes and different forms kind of came together to get to the imagining at the end. So yeah, I'm curious about, like, for you, how other forms of language intersect your poems / hybrid works. Basically need advice. Tell me all your secrets.
I think it's really exciting that you're talking about like potentially moving into hybrid work or like working with historical documents, because I think like with the citations in the book, it's like there are these like amazing women of color, queer theorists that like are doing work that's so vital and that I'm in conversation with, and it deserves more than an epigraph, right? So it's like I'm just like, well, like Leah Lakshmi P.F. Samar Sinha, I think is like someone who's like largely influential, and like I think like when I was like early, like young queer youth, like she was the one where like I got introduced to like ideas of intersectionality, and so like it just felt important that she be like like she had like whole page to herself, you know. And I think that that's like only fair, and I think I think that's a part of queer joy, of just like of understanding that we're part of this collective. There's this collective experiences even across myriad differences, And it doesn't mean that the differences are collapsed. It just means that like we're just coexisting like in this temporality. Like for a moment, there's affinity between each of us. And I think that there's something really beautiful about that. And I think that citations or giving credit to someone's work, even for just a moment, is a way to say like I'm in conversation with you. You're a part of this just as I am. And I think in some ways like that kind of form itself just came out of this, I think, the value system of the work, which is like giving credit and acknowledging like our history, our ancestry, especially queer ancestry too, which is something that like constantly have to reclaim like over and over again. Yeah. What about you, Roberto?
I think that there's the thing that I do throughout the collection is interpolation, is what I like to call it. I was like interrupting one form with a song or one bit of dialogue with another thing that's completely different or semi-different, or it's just an interruption of sorts. And what's queerer than that? Like, here's what the line was supposed to be, but now here's Mary J. Blige's version of like another song that you loved, or the Mary Jane Girls, or something like that. I think that allowing myself to interrupt myself is something that that's how I've grown. And so I really like the idea of you considering a version of what you do that allows for other versions of yourself to enter it, because that, I mean, that's what I want. And I think that you've been talking about some of this stuff for some time. So I'm really excited to see what you can do with that. Because, I mean, that's queer joy, finding a way to create a lineage that wasn't there for us before and then leaving it for the people thereafter. So I'm excited about that. And I want more musical or dancing references. Because, like, we have that. And I heard them there with, like a G6. I'm like, all right, come on, give me some more.
Yeah, the next one's like Mariah. Yeah.
That, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah. So much.
Maybe
Let me see.
They might have a question too if you want to break. Y'all have any questions back there?
Yeah.
No? Anything? Okay. Hi, very nice to see you.
That's good. What else?
Oh, how about I
Yeah.
give you a question?
Oh, sure.
What is something that you, and I don't want this question for myself, but I'm going to offer it.
Oh, sure.
What is something that you feel like you've been trying to write about for a while, but you keep putting it back on the shelf or on the back burner for a time when it's maybe ready for you?
This is like therapy.
Social worker.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's kind of, I've lived with the poems for so long, so I think part of me wanted very much to kind of speak to this relationship of the past, because I wasn't fully out during the relationship, and so I think that that has been kind of like a constant leading up to this book, and now it's kind of like another coming out. And so like wanting to move beyond that coming out and that relationship into new sexy territory. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, I'm interested in the joy, and especially for like queer femme joy and abundance, and yeah, like you said, like continuing the lineage in the ways in which we have wanted to see it in the world and making it for ourselves. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So have you had thoughts about the next, taking it to the next level, the next episode?
Did you have an answer
I love
yeah,
how
for
Roberto
you
was like,
too,
I don't want
for
this
you
question for
too,
myself. And
for
Shelley
you
was
too.
like, but you.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you've done a lot. You just became
I'm
a doctor.
tired. I
Yeah,
just
you
want
need a nap. Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like I don't want to write for like a year.
yeah.
I'm watching YouTube videos on how to make a
Yeah.
cabin.
Oh,
in the
totally.
woods.
Yeah.
I think I guess
That's
it's like the butch
important.
phase I'm entering into, or I'm just like, I'm gonna
hands-on skills.
build a cabin.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah. Here's
I'm not
your
right.
own, a place of your own. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a cabin of your own.
A cabin.
Yeah.
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 Take that. Richard.
Yeah. Also, Muriel just won the Four Quartets prize from the Poetry Society for her sequence of poems. It's a very big deal. Also, she was nominated for a Lammy,
Oh my
a Lambda
gosh.
Award.
Mom, stop
Find out on
embarrassing.
Saturday. There's a lot going on, but abundance.
Like
So
Shelley
yeah,
and
you
I are
deserve
doing
you
like
deserve the
Asian
nap.
mom repair.
Yeah,
repairing
yeah,
now. It's
yeah,
like, we're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about good stuff.
Yeah,
Abundance.
yeah,
Yeah.
abundance. Yeah, just for the record.
Thanks.
So you deserve that nap. Upgrade that cabin. Yeah.
What about you, Roberto? What do you?
Well, I'm writing new stuff, and I think I'm trying to. I have a whole manuscript that's in the drawer that I keep looking at. I was like, wow, that's really great. Put it away. And I think it's that I don't feel different enough to write it. You know, I wrote so much, and there's nothing else I can do for it yet. So I'm just avoiding that. I recorded like a whole other album. So that got my mind off of that because I don't say bussy enough in my poetry. I save it for the music because, you know. But I think that the other thing that I've been trying to do is not pressure myself because it's exhausting putting all that work into anything, getting outside, walking down the street during the pandemic. So to have created a whole world and then offered it to the world for them to chew on. I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet, but I am still writing, and I think that finding things to be excited about. So sometimes watching that do-it-yourself cabinet making thing, there's a line in that I'm like, ooh, consider that stolen. That's a poem. So I think that that's still writing, or at least that's how I view it.
Do you ever start writing a song and then becomes a poem the same or verse back and forth? Or do you have like a poem version of a song version of a poem? Oh. Should have.
But I think that. Wait, can you hear me? Or do I have to do this? Okay. Well, okay. Yeah, I have a lot of those things where I thought like, oh, this is a beautiful sonnet, and no, this is a sex song about being at the back of the eagle or something like that. So I think that sometimes I've learned that you're trying to force something to be something it's not, or it's not ready to be. So being okay with maybe those 12 lines are going to be in a song versus in a psalm or what. That was okay. I think that I'm trying to become comfortable with, like, I still did it, so it becomes what it's going to become. But I do like that question because I think I need to do like a roadmap between the album and the collection because there's overlap, and sometimes I was listening to one and that may have affected it. That's homework for me.
I love how you inspire yourself. Beautiful. Okay. Let's see. Any questions from the audience at this time? Good. Okay. I think we're good then. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for this reading and conversation.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all.